Hey y'all, I'm Bud Elliott, and this is Cover 3 College Football Summer School. We've done our research on the teams, and now we're bringing on the top team experts from the 24/7 Sports Network to help us fill in the blanks. Please follow us on Twitter at Cover 3 Podcast. That's Cover 3 Podcast. And leave us a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. All right, class is in session. Hey y'all, welcome back into the Cover 3 College Football Podcast. I'm Bud Elliott, and this is Summer School, where we try to learn the most about all the college football teams out there. Today, we're going to talk a little Kansas State, and to do so, we're going to go to my buddy Tim Fitzgerald, GoPowercat.com. Tim, welcome to Cover 3.
It's good to be on. Just sitting in a hotel in Vegas. So when this hits the air, it'll seem like I've been here for 3 weeks. It'll be awesome.
That's the kind of dedication we're looking for here at Summer School. Tim is on vacation, post signing day, post spring ball. He's hitting Vegas, and what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, except what he says on this podcast, which will hit your ears and eyes. Follow us on YouTube as well. Like and subscribe if you guys enjoy the show. Appreciate Tim making the time. So Kansas State 8-5 last year. I had them power rated inside my top 25 personally. I think a lot of other folks did as well. The mood in Manhattan has to be pretty good about this squad, I would feel like, right?
Yeah, I mean, the big question coming out of last season into this season was the quarterback situation with Skylar Thompson going to the NFL, picked in the 7th round. And they pretty much solved that with Adrian Martinez. As far as we can tell, we don't know if he's going to be fully healthy. We don't know if he's cut down on the turnovers, but he is one heck of a quarterback, great athlete. And if he can kind of close up some of the loops in his game, he could be really effective in an offense with Deuce Vaughn at his side.
Tim, I was thinking about that because Nebraska, despite the turnovers and just the untimely nature of some of the turnovers, not that there's ever a great time to have turnovers, but some of those turnovers just came at really critical junctures, and yet they still kept running them out there, which made me think they have to see something in him in practice enough that is still so attractive that they want to keep playing him. Maybe another voice gets through to him on Kansas State staff, and they're able to have him minimize those turnovers, or maybe just happen at a little bit less inopportune times, and you have something there.
Maybe just asking him to do some different things. And what's interesting about it is we don't really know what we're going to see from the K-State offense because there's a new offensive coordinator and former K-State quarterback Colin Klein. We saw a little taste of it in the Texas Bowl, but we don't really know what all he's changed in this offense. But I know this. He's pretty excited as a former run-first quarterback himself. He's thrilled to have Adrian Martinez in that backfield. And like I said, when you pair him up with Deuce Vaughn and some pretty good receivers and tight ends, this could be a really good Kansas State offense.
One of the things I love watching Kansas State's offense is not the high-flying passing attack, but the word that comes to me is hesitation. I feel like the defenses are always hesitating. They're struggling to attack what Kansas State does because Kansas State does create a lot of hesitation in you and a lot of indecision. I feel like is Deuce Vaughn going to get the ball? Was Skylar Thompson going to keep it? Are they going to do a long fake in the backfield and there's a pop pass to the tight end who's streaking down the field against Oklahoma. Receiver-wise, they got to feel pretty good as well with Brooks and Knowles and those guys back, right? Like they got some weapons here.
Yeah, and the offense struggled for most of last season to get the receivers involved. In fact, last 2 seasons. The change of offensive coordinator seems to address that. They were very involved in the bowl game. And we actually saw a little bit less Deuce Vaughn, which made him more effective. It made him more of a surprise. Like you said, you're always looking for Deuce to get it. The problem with Deuce is he's about 3 feet tall, and he hides behind his offensive line. He plays as low as anyone I've ever seen. The photos of him running, he's so low that his headgear is quite often at his offensive linemen's butts. And I'm not making that up. That's how low he runs. So you can imagine the problem as a defender trying to locate him, let alone know if he has the ball or not. So it's really fun to watch. And I think Colin Klein's going to have him going a little bit faster with the tempo of the offense when they need to, which was something else they really needed in this offense, was to kind of pick it up at different points of the game.
That is a really great note for us. Obviously, we do talk a good bit of gambling, and of course, over and unders are made due to offensive and defensive efficiency, but also tempo. It can make a huge difference there. My one real question on the offense here is the offensive line. They lose 3 out of their top 5 starters off a unit that, at least to my numbers, looked like they stayed fairly healthy last year. What is there any way they avoid a drop off here?
No, I think they're going to be fine. They did have a preseason injury of a starter, so Taylor Portier will be back.
Okay.
Cooper Beebe played left tackle. They actually lost their entire interior of the line. He played left tackle last year, but he's probably moving inside. They feel good about it. They have some young guys that, they feel like are kind of plug and play guys. We'll find out. The one thing about this system since Chris Kleiman came to town with Connor Riley as his offensive line coach is the offensive line has been a constant strength of the team and really consistent. So if they can maintain that, this could be a really dynamic offense in Colin Klein's hands.
And I mean, that's one thing Kleiman teams have always done well is not beating themselves with negative plays typically.
Yeah. And
awesome.
That gets Adrian Martinez. If he can cut those out, they should be in pretty good shape.
Man, if they get him going, those Nebraska coaches are going to be like, they're going to be happy for the kid, obviously, but they're going to be just frustrated that they couldn't get that there in Lincoln. Defensively, side of the ball last year was the better side of the ball for K-State. Defensive line looks fine, right? They should be probably even a little bit better.
What's funny is we think so, but they had so many. They played the last bowl game, so they weren't done until January 5th with their bowl game, and they had a lot of injuries from the season that needed to be fixed, including basically their entire defensive line. So they were out the whole spring. In fact, they had to use a long snapper and an offensive lineman for D-line depth. If they're healthy, they're going to be really good. They've got Felix Anudike-Uzomah. It's potentially a breakout star. They've got some guys that have returned. They should be pretty good. Last year was a growing process as they switched to the three-man front, something that these coaches had never done. This is not what they did at North Dakota State. But when they got into the Big 12, they realized we need to be able to balance the run and the pass defense a little bit better than we did it at the other level. And so they went to the three-man front. Took them a while to kind of settle into it, but by season's end, they were pretty good in it.
Linebacker, though, you lose Fletcher, you lose Hennington, you lose Moore. I wrote down Munoz, but I don't really even remember watching him a whole lot. Is that a drop-off?
No. It could be. They picked up Will Honus, another Nebraska player, as they've kind of started to pick up some Nebraska guys who also missed spring football because of an injury. But they have Daniel Green there, who's an NFL guy. There was a question if he'd come back or not, and he made it very clear that he intended to come back because he had some more business to do. He was overlooked in the Big 12, to be real honest. I think he didn't get enough respect. He's a guy that plays sideline to sideline, is extremely aggressive. In fact, on two very clean hits, he took out two quarterbacks against Kansas just because he's a very hard hitter. So if they can stay healthy, that's the spot where they don't have a lot of depth. In fact, they brought in a transfer who didn't survive the spring, and they're probably still looking for a transfer in to build up some more depth at linebacker because, this K-State defense, pretty good across the front line, but boy, they run into some depth issues pretty quickly if they get some injuries piling up.
For sure. And in the secondary there, they do lose Russ Yeast, who was one of my favorite players, the guy that I remember watching as like a sophomore in high school down there at IMG Academy for a lot of those 7-on-7s. We have those teams come down to my state and play. And they're just always a really fun guy to watch and just like a smart, versatile dude. It just makes a lot of sense he would end up at Kansas State in his final form in college. McPherson and Stubblefield also depart. But you kind of have to feel pretty good about the corner tandem, right?
Yeah, they are pretty good. Boydo and Brents are two guys that offer different looks. Brents is a little bit longer. Boydo's a smaller guy, but plays extremely aggressive. And they're working on building up the depth in that secondary, too, because they've had some attrition at safety. They should be okay. But like I said, they better go find a few more guys in the portal here before summer camp hits because they definitely need to address that or they can get themselves into trouble pretty quickly.
No doubt about it. Tim, I have to ask you here about the field goal situation last year, just an inconsistent kicking game, to be honest. Whereas most of the other special teams on Kansas State were rated, okay to good. Are they going to run the same kicker out there?
Well, they went through a couple kickers. They had a young man get hurt and decided to quit football. And then their next kicker got hurt before the bowl game or was COVID positive. I'm still not sure. And they used Ty Zentner, their punter, to kick. He did a good job at the bowl game. He can do both. He's been primarily their punter. So Ty came back for the bonus season, and we'll see if he handles both duties or they stick with the young guy. They just need to get a little more experience there. And they have some really promising guys, but it's a lot different than practice, trotting out there in a Big 12 game to drill some field goals. So, yeah, they struggled at times.
Schedule this year seems manageable. I mean, the roadies are certainly difficult. You do have the long travel to West Virginia this year. Get Texas Tech at home. Non-conference should produce a winning record, barring something really crazy you're disappointed. Is this a team that you feel like if Baylor comes back to the pack, or if Oklahoma fails to achieve the level their fans hope, that it's a team that could see itself in the Big 12 title game?
They could. They really could. And, that probably gets back to staying healthy and getting solid quarterback play. But this is a year where they've got the 5 on the road and the unbalanced schedule in the Big 12. And they're playing all 3 of their non-cons at home, including Missouri, which will be an adequate test, a pretty good test to have in Manhattan. But, again, they open the season on the road, which K-State does almost every year in conference play. And they go to Oklahoma, which seems like a horrible place to start. But as much success as Kansas State's had at Norman by catching them early, I think K-State's probably pretty happy about getting Sooners right out of the gate on the road.
No doubt about it. It's also worth noting at Baylor, at West Virginia. I mean, Waco, Morgantown is a lot of travel at the end of the year, but there is a chance, and I'm not projecting this, but there is, of course, a chance West Virginia things could go poorly there. They could be maybe not quite as motivated as they would normally be to play one of those final games. I'd almost rather play the Mountaineers late than early if they do decide to have a little quit factor in them.
I'm more confused about West Virginia than anyone in the Big 12. I hear rave reviews about how things are going, and yet every day I see someone else in the portal. So I've been a little baffled by it, and it will be interesting. The thing about the Big 12 is the conference may not have the elite Alabama, Georgia, but outside of Kansas, which is improving, it's just so brutal week to week. Anyone can beat anyone. And so if you have a little issue, like some teams do, it can come unraveled on you so quickly because there's just no relief.
Yeah, just looking at my numbers, there are a whole lot of teams in the Big 12 that are in that sort of 35 to 60 range nationally. You don't have a lot of weeks where you're playing somebody who is 90th or 120th, as you said. It really you don't have to bring your A game every week, but you need to at least bring your B game. If you bring your C or D, you're not going to skate by.
You're going to lose. You're going to lose,
yeah.
and that's even to Kansas, which Texas found out. If KU shows up,
yes, they did.
Lance Leipold's going to get them going a little bit better than they have been, which doesn't say much, but it'll just ramp up this conference even more.
No doubt about it. And if you guys want to check out a preview of Missouri as well, we already did the Missouri preview with Mitchell Forty, Pat Forty's son. It's on our YouTube channel as well. So if you guys want to check that out, a lot of quarterback uncertainty at Missouri going into the year. So getting them early, Tim, maybe not the worst thing. Really appreciate you joining us today, man. GoPowercat.com is the best Kansas State site in the world. Everybody needs to check that out. And Tim, enjoy Vegas.
Thank you, sir. It's my last day. I'm out of here.
Oh, man. Got to find a way to extend that. Or well, I don't know. Sometimes too much Vegas can be a thing.
Yeah, it was this time.
No doubt about it.
Thanks, Bud.
All right, that's the bell. Cover 3 College Football Summer School is over for today. But don't worry. We'll be back soon with even more episodes filling you in on the top teams in college football. Please give us those 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Follow us on YouTube and on Twitter at Cover 3 Podcast. And we'll see y'all soon.